What's up, YouTube? It's the Console Samurai with Grown Ups Gaming. One game that a lot of gamers have been looking forward to for a few years now, especially this year, 2016, is Final Fantasy 15. For those of you who don't know, Final Fantasy 15 started out, the version we got anyway, started out as Final Fantasy 13 Versus, a spin-off of one of the most hated games in the entire franchise. To be honest, like many gamers, I was really hesitant about this game because, Square Enix made a lot of promises. They promised that it was going to restore Final Fantasy to its former glory. It was going to bring back all of the core fans they'd lost in the recent installments. It was going to make Final Fantasy great again. It was going to put them on top one more time. After seeing the promotional materials and after seeing the demos and live streams and all of everything about Final Fantasy 15, I was really nervous because in the last few games, not the MMOs, because those are obviously going to be different, but in the last few games they had changed the formula so much that it really felt that Final Fantasy had lost its identity. It wasn't the same game that it once was. When it went from 10 to 12, it changed it so much that a lot of people didn't even realize that it was the same game. And then when they went from 12 to 13, they changed it one more time. A huge amount. So I was really nervous about when this one came out, what it was going to mean for the franchise. I was afraid it was going to be the downfall of Final Fantasy once and for all. Which, when it came out this week, I kind of just jumped in head first just to see how bad this game really is. How much damage is this going to do to my favorite franchise, Final Fantasy? And as much as I want to condemn this game and say it's a terrible game and this is the beginning of the end for Final Fantasy, I really can't do that. I can't. I mean, is it an amazing game? No. Is it a fun game? Yeah, absolutely. And it is a good game. It's a really good game. Is it a real Final Fantasy game? I'm not really sure. I don't know I would call it a Final Fantasy game. I also don't know that I would say it's not a Final Fantasy game, because there are a lot of aspects that are definitely Final Fantasy, and there's a lot of aspects that are definitely not Final Fantasy. So it is definitely another huge change on the formula, but not necessarily one that is so far that it has lost its identity. One of the main things people look for in Final Fantasy is the story. And while I haven't finished the game yet, I've gotten deep enough into the story to see that there are definitely some big story changes coming. It looks to me, at least at the point I'm at, I'm about 8 hours into the game. I'm in third chapter of, I think, 10 chapters. And even though the story hasn't really gotten amazing yet, it does look like there are some definitely big things off on the horizon. So I look forward to that. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is actually going to have a really good story, because so far it does look like it is ramping up to be a pretty good story. Another thing is the gameplay. The gameplay in this is not Final Fantasy, to be honest. It's not bad. It is fun. It's a fun game to play. But it's not Final Fantasy. This game has completely abandoned the turn-based battle system, 100%. There's no turn-based whatsoever, which for people who didn't like turn-based is an amazing thing. This is great for them. But for people like me who still actually enjoyed turn-based, it's kind of a disappointment. This wasn't a surprise. I knew that they were doing this. I was kind of disappointed when I first heard that, but this is just continuation of what I already knew was going to happen. I knew there wasn't going to be turn-based. The battle system does not feel like Final Fantasy. It does feel much more like Kingdom Hearts or Witcher or Devil May Cry or any of the million action RPG games that are out there. It doesn't really feel as much like a Final Fantasy game. It doesn't feel like it's absolutely not a Final Fantasy game, but it does feel much more like another franchise. The only aspect of the battle system I found that actually was Final Fantasy was the way that you get magic in the game, at least at the point I'm at. It definitely seems like they took the draw system from Final Fantasy VIII, which I know was a great thing for a lot of people. It actually was one of my least favorite parts of Final Fantasy VIII, and it really made it difficult for me to truly get into the game at times because I gotta go find this, and I gotta go draw this elemental power out of the earth. It became a hassle to me, and I'm afraid that that's going to become a hassle in this game, where you don't You don't learn the magic. You don't buy the magic. You just draw it out of the earth, and you have to then craft it into magic, which is a simple process to do that. That's not a huge problem. As far as the graphics, for those of you who watch my channel, you'll know that I don't actually get that hung up on graphics. You know, I like good graphics in a game, but it's never going to be my #1 criteria, and I'm never gonna decide on a game based solely on the graphics. If it's down to like PlayStation 3 versus PlayStation 4, and the PlayStation 4 version has better graphics, then sure, I'm gonna pick PlayStation 4. But we're talking about the same game here. We're not talking about I'm ever going to pick a game because of the graphics solely. That to me, the graphics just isn't that important to me. But the graphics in this game are very good. They are really, really nice. They're not perfect, but the Final Fantasy team did a very good job with the way people look. They look pretty damn realistic, and I like that. Final Fantasy team came a long way with what they could do. But like I said, this isn't a terrible game. It's not going to be one of the Final Fantasy games that people are debating for the next decade or two, talking about, oh, this is the best Final Fantasy. No, this one's the best Final Fantasy. That's not going to happen with this game. At least I don't think it will. I could be wrong. Who knows? It may take a huge turn somewhere near the end, and it becomes the most epic one we've had yet. I don't know, but I haven't gotten to the end yet, as I said. I don't think this is going to be one of the ones that's going to be one of the most revered. But what do you think? Have you played Final Fantasy? Did you like it? Did you think it was terrible? Do you think it is Final Fantasy? It's not Final Fantasy. Is this game the death of Final Fantasy, as us storied Final Fantasy fans are familiar with? Either way, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Once again, I am the Console Samurai, and I'll see you around.